Hi guys. So today I'd like to talk a little bit about Fire Mage in Dragonflight. It's something that I've been playing a lot over the weekend, and I think it's really fun. And I'd like to share my thoughts on it with you, and hopefully might maybe influence some minds to get Blizzard to maybe buff us just a little bit and give us some love. Yeah, so let's just get right into it. The build that I've been playing is this. I would say it's like kind of an ignite spread build where you're playing around, building up an ignite, and then spreading that onto targets to do AOE, and then you're just like pumping single target on bosses, right, really hard. So it kind of is a little bit like the role that Fire Mage currently fills on retail. It's I would say it's fairly close to that, and it does pretty well, honestly. If when you play it correctly and you're communicating with your tank and not griefing too much, it does actually do really good damage. Just to show a little breakdown here. So this is before the first boss in not the first boss, but the tree boss in Algathar Academy. You got all these. You got basically some big mobs that are surrounded by a huge amount of small mobs, right? So the amount of damage I'm doing on the big mob, which is the Vile Lasher, there's 3 of these in total, I believe, and they're surrounded by a huge amount of Hungry Lashers, right? I'm just pumping the Vile Lasher and then spreading my ignite to the small mobs, and it's making the pack like die very consistently, like almost at the same time. So we have like a monk here who's doing just big AOE, like basically twice as much as me on the small mobs, but he's not doing anywhere near as much on the big mob. And the same with our feral druid. He's just kind of AOEing, right? And I'm just pumping the Vile Lashers, doing like more than twice the amount of the monk. And I think that role is pretty important actually if you're planning on pushing keys. So Fire Mage actually does fill that role very well. I just don't think it. I think it's very hard to play, and it's you're basically putting in a lot of effort to get not as much as another class would. Like I think even Rogue does the shop better and easier, right? And it's less fiddly. The problem with this build right now actually is mostly around that so much of your damage comes like at the start of the. Basically, what you want to do is you want to build some procs on the previous pack, and then you want to sort of you want to bank those, and then you want to unleash those like at the start of the next pack to do AOE, to just get an insane ignite that you can spread very quickly. And if you can't do that, the spec does really, like, I would say it's really undertuned. If you cannot pull this off consistently, you just don't do anywhere near as much damage as the other classes that excel at AOE. And it's very toxic due to Sun King's Blessing is like 15 seconds, so the tank kind of has to hurry up, like, because usually it's not actually 15 seconds from the last pack dying. It's like more like he might have like 4 seconds to pull and get threat and shit. And you're just like, you're shimmering up there, you're starting your cast, and you're basically telling him like, look, dude, you gotta fucking pull right now, or I'm not doing any damage. And especially when you're pugging, I think that playstyle is really toxic. It makes people hate you because you're just constantly like, you're putting pressure on people to go when it might not be the best time. And like the reward that you get for playing like that is just not anywhere close to enough, I think. So I think that's the main problem with Fire Mage right now, and they could easily fix that by just making Sun King's Blessing, last a lot longer. I don't see why it has to last 30 seconds and 15 seconds. I don't know, like, I feel like the proc that you build up to get your next combustion, that should just be infinite. It shouldn't have a timer associated with it. And the hard cast to get combustion should just be like 45, like 30 seconds or something. If it was 30 seconds, then it would be a lot less toxic. Also Pyroclasm, I think that should also just be 30. I don't really understand why it has to be 15. When the spec is already kind of undertuned, right? So they could easily just make it a lot nicer, a lot less difficult, and a lot less toxic. by just extending the duration on these procs, right? Yeah. The next thing I want to address is flamestrike and why it's not really being played. And it's mostly due to the thing that I said before, right? Where we do really good single target damage actually. So giving up this much AoE, giving up this much single target to get AoE it doesn't really make sense, right? When we're basically just trying to take the job of somebody else that does it better, and then suffering immensely on the thing that we are somewhat good at, right? So I can just kind of show you like the amount of stuff you have to give up kind of makes the build like very memey. So you cannot take fires. You can't take these 2 talents, that's not actually that bad, but you cannot even afford cauterize realistically, right? Because you need flame on, you need flame patch to even make it worth casting, and then this is just like, this does a lot of damage actually, especially on when there's a lot of targets, right? Then you take combustion. You would take improved combustion, of course, when you're casting flame strikes. Probably not take tempered flames, because if you have this, the combustion is just so short that you cannot really get many flame strikes out anyway. Then you have to take this because it's just so much mastery, right? I would probably maybe play from the ashes. I'm not 100% sure. I mean, the Alexstras's Fury is also pretty nice for building hot streaks to cast flame strikes. And then I would probably take this just to get the extra charge, to get even more chances to build the hot streak. Phoenix Reborn, it gives us cooldown reduction on our Phoenix Flame, so we can cast more for more hot streaks. You need Kindling, of course. You need Master of Flame. You probably need Fiery Rush, right? So you can get more out of your combustion, and we need Sun King's Blessing as well. So now we have 1 point left. And this point is probably like, if you're trying to push keys, you need Cauterize, right? You could take Fire Starter, you could take Feared Incantation. I think this is probably the most DPS. And this build, if you're doing low keys, does actually really good on overall. I think it's fairly good on overall, right? But like in a high key, it's just not very. You're better off just playing Frost or something, in my opinion. And you're giving up so much single target damage and so much, like, even defensive, right? You're giving up Fire Mind. You're really weak, I think, especially on bosses when you're playing this way. Yeah. So you can play this in low keys. I've done it, and it does really, really good damage in low keys when stuff dies quickly. But it doesn't really scale. Yeah. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. Yeah, I just think that they should change, like maybe buff. I think they should buff Pyroblast, to be honest. Like just put 10% extra damage on it or something. And then they should extend these procs to last a lot longer, to make it less toxic to play. Yeah, and then I think Fire Mage is actually in a pretty good spot. Of course, not when we're comparing ourselves to, Windwalker Monk, which is like a crazy overtune spec that I don't really see a way that that's not getting nerfed. Like this monk I had in this key was just like, he just hopped on the class. Don't even think he's played monk before, and he just started cranking, right? And I've seen monks do, 130k overall in keys and stuff. It's so insane, right? So if we're comparing ourselves against, those classes, then of course we look super weak. But I think if we're comparing ourselves to the classes that look like they're in a balanced state, that they're gonna go live as, I think we're doing okay, especially when you think about that niche role that we can fill. I think you can definitely make Fire Mage work, and I think it's really fun to play. Of course, it actually has a huge skill ceiling to play this Pyroclasm build. You have to manage a lot of procs. You have to manage your time anomaly. You have to play around. Like, you kind of have to play around this, actually, like holding your Pyroclasm charge to like use it in some sort of combustion window that comes up, and then spreading the ignite from that. And you have a lot of things to think about. I just think that with a spec that's this difficult to play, it should have a little bit more of a payoff. Yeah, that's my 2 cents on Fire Mage going into Dragonflight.